Hello, hello, hello. Yes. Hi, Lainey. Didn't you just make a post saying that you weren't going live? I did. Yeah, and then I made another one stating that I would be going live. So here was what happened. First of all, welcome everybody to That's My Opinion. It is March 20th of 2025. It is Thursday afternoon, and we have our live stream. Usually I go live in the morning, and usually I go live in the afternoon. However, I do have an autistic son who likes to wake up between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. So this morning when we had woken up, I was like, okay, well, sometimes, when that happens, the kids aren't able to go to school, but sometimes they get up and they are. So, they had stayed home with me this morning, and then they were able to go to the second half of the school, or the way that school works for us. Hi, Tavares. How are you? So let's see. My other chat is like never working. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over the deposition of Roberta Laundrie. We started that last week. I had put out my video about Gabby Petito yesterday, and then today we're going to be finishing the deposition just to go through and see what she had to say when the Petitos brought a civil lawsuit against that family. This whole thing is very interesting to me. The more I read about this family, the more they're awful. They are awful. So, where we left off was that, they were talking about what they were doing when Brian got home. Hi, Medell. Nice to see you too. Okay, so we're going to kind of go over that. Again, I just have to get to that point. I had it pulled up, and then, hold on. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to go back and start from there and continue on. So this is what we have. Let me see so you guys can see it. Okay. So now what we found out is that Brian has called his parents. This is all according to Roberta Laundrie, so take this with a grain of salt, because do I think that she is actually being honest? No, I don't. I believe that both Roberta and I believe his name is Chris Laundrie, I believe that both of them knew exactly. Hi, John. Both of them knew exactly what was going on. I think when your child calls you and tells you that their partner is gone repeatedly, and then they ask over and over and over again, or say over and over and over again, they're gone, they're gone, they're gone. By the way, I also need a lawyer, and that retainer for that lawyer is $25,000. I think if you have two pinto beans between your ears, that you could figure out what's going on. Did I cover the Maura Murray case? There's been an interesting development recently, and looks like they have DNA linking a suspect to her disappearance. It's everywhere. No, I have not. I do have a writing pad down here, though, and I do like to take suggestions. So I will, here it is. I will write that down. Thank you very much. So do I think that the parents knew? Yes. Do I think that they're trying to play with plausible deniability? Also, yes. Do I think, it's their right to do that and call an attorney? Absolutely. But ethically and, not ethically, I guess, but morally, do I think that, they're awful and they suck? Yes. Also. So anyways. We know that Brian called them and told them that she was gone. And then we know that he came home using her van, using her debit card, while also Venmoing himself $700 from her Venmo account. He went out of his way to set up a crime scene, get an alibi. And I dropped my pen. And put a lot of things together. A lot of people think that this was a crime of passion. I think that this was coming. I think he took a lot of effort into trying to cover things up. I don't know. I don't know if I believe it was a true crime of passion, or if this was just something that was, inevitably coming inside of their relationship. So we also know that Brian came home. He came to his parents lawyered up. I was thinking about this today. And one of the things that I don't understand is Brian's parents came to the door and told the police, Brian's not talking to you, he needs a lawyer. And somebody had said in my comments, is there any proof that Brian was actually at the house? And I said, that's a really great point. And what I would want to know is, because Brian is an adult, Why didn't the police say, that's fine, you guys can have a lawyer. I need Brian Laundrie to come out here and talk to me and tell me, just say, you know, I have a lawyer. I won't be speaking to you, and he can give me the information. Because I have to tell you, so I was trying to get it's a long story, but I was trying to get order of protection at one point at my house, and the police came to the house and they took, what statements I had, and they said, unfortunately, we cannot do anything unless that person is here. And you tell them in front of us, you have to be the one to tell them you are no longer welcome here. You cannot be here. And then if they come back again, that's when you call us immediately and we will do something. So I just don't understand why they didn't make Brian be the one. That's fine. Chris and Roberta could get a lawyer and be like, we don't want to talk to you, but Brian never said anything. So we don't actually, we don't actually know if Brian was in the house at that point. But we do know that according to Roberta, Brian comes home with Gabby's van, using her credit card, Venmoing money. Hi, Jana. And then, and then they get home and they know that Gabby's gone and that Brian needs a lawyer for $25,000. And then she states, we go out to dinner. Is it up here? Hold on. It's somewhere. What did you guys do when he gets home? Where is it? We mostly stayed home, prepared meals, and went out to dinner, I think once or twice, and watched TV, not much. Your son has come home with your soon-to-be daughter-in-law's van. She is nowhere to be found. You have not contacted her. Her parents have actually contacted you to tell you that they have not talked to her. Nobody can find her. And Roberta says, well, I thought maybe her parents would come pick her up, which is bullshit because, hi, Grace, because her parents literally texted you and said, we're calling the police. And then they said you went on vacation, didn't you? Oh, and I'm not making this up, okay? How I'm reading this is how it was stated by her in her own deposition. Oh, yes. We had reservations. Oh, we went overnight to Fort DeSoto because we had reservations. We had just bought a camper and we wanted to test it out. The question is, your life went on as normal. The answer, well, we did. We did normal things, yes. The level of, I guess, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. And the fact, I just, to pretend to be so dumb and so cold and so callous is unbelievable. And this is even after, and mind you, that this deposition is happening long after Gabby has been found, long after Brian has been found. Everybody's gone. And they still just, yes, we went to an overnight at Fort DeSoto because we had reservations. We couldn't have missed that. Please. How could you go on vacation knowing that Gabby was gone while the Petito family was looking for her? Mr. Meltz, object to the form. Roberta, we had just planned to go and test out the camper overnight, and we were just doing our regular things. I didn't, and I don't know. They went after Gabby didn't come home and after the parents have contacted them. But we had camping reservations. I believe it was the same weekend, but maybe a longer time frame. Mrs. Laundrie, at some point, Brian left your house, and I think your husband testified yesterday that that was September 13th. Does that sound correct? Yes. By the way, does Mr. Bertolino still represent you and your husband? I believe so. Yes. I always think of him as my attorney for everything, but so yeah, for this case. So when Brian left, what was his demeanor? When he left that morning to go hiking, he was just going hiking. You knew he was leaving and going hiking. Yes. Attorney Bertolino, and so that's the other thing. What is a Jocasta complex? Hi, Leslie. How are you? So you knew he was leaving and going hiking. So Brian comes home again in her van. Everybody is looking for Gabby. And you're like, oh, he's just going hiking. Parents have called you very concerned, telling you that they are going to call the police. The police have showed up at your house. And you're like, he was just leaving to go hiking. No guilt, no remorse, just leaving. Attorney Bertolino has stated on several occasions that Brian was grieving when he left. Was he grieving? I didn't see him as grieving. I wouldn't use the word grieving. What word would you use? What word would you use? I don't know. He was, I guess, worried and concerned. And I know he was talking to Stephen on the phone, but we tried to keep things. Stephen Bertolino told us just to keep him close and calm, keep him calm. And that's what we did. A mother's intense, often domineering and potentially possessive attachment to her son. God, I wish I could highlight comments. Oh, I just had that on here and it won't let me do it. Oh, I'm so disappointed right now because yes. That is exactly what I believe that Roberta is. A mother's intense, often domineering and potentially possessive attachment to her son, in my opinion, 1000%. She shows her disdain towards Gabby. It's sick. It is sick. Right. And there's attachment and then there's attachment. That is correct. Did you ever see him as grieving after he returned on September 1st? I don't know if I don't know what he was thinking or what he was feeling. I ask my son every day. He can't answer me, but I ask my son every day, like, how was school, buddy? How was your day? Your son returns from a camping trip without his girlfriend in her van. We don't ask any questions? None? Hi, ATF. He was your son, right? Yes. And you never discussed what happened in Wyoming with him? No. Did Attorney Bertolino tell you why you shouldn't discuss it with him? He just told us to keep him safe, keep him close, and don't talk to him about anything. He was representing Brian. Brian was Stephen's client, and that was it. And we just stayed in the background, kept him safe, kept him close. Okay. I got to tell you, I don't just have, and also too, I don't know what the Laundries do, that they have $25,000 that they could just like loan out to their kids without asking any questions. Because I don't have it. Not without a good reason. That's for sure. This is like Norman Bates. Yeah. Did Mr. Bertolino tell you not to speak with Brian about what happened in Wyoming so that you wouldn't know whether he did or didn't murder Gabby? Objection to the form, but you can answer. I don't know why Stephen gave us the advice he gave us. It's just what he gave us. You know, honestly, I wish I could be more like Roberta because I ask too many questions and then they sit in my brain. And then, you know, I think from this day moving forward, my goal is to be exactly like Roberta Laundrie and ask zero questions about anything ever. Anything. My husband comes home. I blew $100,000. Okay. All right. My kids, I got expelled from school. All right. My husband, I'm cheating on you. Okay. The guy that wants to come back there he came from. What? The guy that wants to go back where he came from. Right. Brian's mom is mega hot. Said nobody ever. Oh, God. Well, as a mother, you have a natural instinct to want to speak with your child if he's hurting, don't you? Yes. Did you have that natural instinct with Brian when he came home after September 1st? Well, not to talk to him and pump him for questions, but certainly to love him and feed him and hug him and, give him lots of love and keep him safe and close because he's mine now and Gabby doesn't exist anymore and I could just have him all by myself. That was ad-libbed, but that's how I heard it in my brain. So you didn't, as our attorney advised us. Sorry, are you finished? Yes. So you didn't want to know what it was that was making him so upset. Well, I just followed Steven's advice and I, left. I tried not to. I left him be. Hi, Critical. I agree with you, Kristen. I think that they were extremely accommodating. I do. So you put your motherly instinct aside and followed an attorney's advice, which is interesting. This is the same woman that wrote that if he hated her guts, she would get new guts. If he needed to bury a body, that she would bring a shovel and a bag. If he went to jail, she would put a file in a cake. Yet he comes home, he's feeling bad, and she has zero maternal instinct. Just none. Just none. Well, I think it was my motherly instinct to follow the attorney's advice, to do what was best for my son, and that's what I was doing. Were you concerned your son was going to go to prison? At the time, I don't remember if that crossed my mind. Well, that would be a pretty traumatic thing, wouldn't it? My son going to prison? Yes. Exactly. Nothing can separate us, my love. That's exactly what I hear, except a lawyer. That's exactly what I hear when she speaks. There is nothing that can get between us except for Steven Bertolino. And you can't remember if back in September of 2021, you thought your son was going to prison ever crossed your mind. I don't remember. I had a lot of worries. And I don't remember every thought or worry specifically. The brain power that this woman has to just be, Do you think that your son's going to prison? I don't know. I worry about a lot of things. What were your worries? That Brian would be okay. Okay about what? Whatever the issue that he had to deal with Steven and Gabrielle, and it would end well. That was my hope. If my son needed a lawyer with the girl he was going to get married to, I would not just be sitting around waiting for a hope and a prayer. What? And what did you think maybe that issue was? Oh, I wasn't sure and I didn't want to ask. And because I was told not to ask, so I just kept Brian close, kept him home and safe, and didn't talk to him about anything and hoped for the best. I also, as a 23-year-old man, breastfed him. So there's that. So on August 29th, you learned from Brian that Gabby's gone, correct? Yes. And you didn't think maybe, and did you think maybe she just walked off somewhere? That was another thought that I thought, yeah. The question is, they should be guilty of aiding and abetting a murderer, shouldn't they? So, oh, Kristen. Oh, Kristen. Well, let's talk about it. So in the state of Florida, you have no requirement to report that there has been a crime unless you were a part of it. So they could know that a crime has been committed, and it is not their obligation in the state of Florida to report that crime. Number one. Number two, because they exercise their right to not speak to police, which is absolutely your right. And, you know, a lot of people shouldn't speak to the police. You should get a lawyer right away. That's exactly what they did. So technically, they never said anything to police. So, you know, I don't know. I wish they could be charged on something. But, you know, I mean, even charged on nothing, imagine living your life normally. This is kind of like a Casey Anthony thing. The Laundries can't go anywhere without somebody being like, your son sucks. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that anybody would allow the Laundries to just go out and be themselves, you know? So, I mean, they might be getting what they deserve. They got people all over the internet talking about what pieces of shit they are. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Has she ever done that before? She often wouldn't come home at night or would disappear. Like, I was having a family dinner party and she didn't show up for it, and it turned out she was in New York but hadn't mentioned it. She didn't mention that she was going to New York at any point in time, or she didn't mention it to you. I didn't really keep track of her. She was independent. No, she wasn't. She was under Brian's thumb constantly because your son sucks. So what periods of time would she disappear for? Sometimes she'd go out at night and we didn't know where she was until 4 a.m, but she's not our daughter. Oh my God, I wish I had a notebook and I could highlight this because I believe it's 10 pages back where, didn't you say that, oh, I love her like my daughter? Love her like a daughter? I'm sorry? She's not our daughter. Speaking of daughters, did Cassie get one of those weirdo burn after reading letters? Would you bake a file and a cake for Cassie Laundrie? Would you get new guts if she hated you? Would you bring a shovel and a bag if she needed to bury a body? I'm not going to tell her she can't go out at night. And sometimes she would. For instance, we were going to have a holiday and she knew, I shopped and oh my God, this fucking bitch. You can highlight it, FYI. Yeah, what am I on? I don't know what I'm on. Hold on. Listen to this. Sometimes she would. For instance, we were going to have a holiday and she knew. I shopped and cooked and the recipe she liked and planned a recipe. And then she just wasn't there. And I thought, oh, she's not going to be here for Easter? And it turned out, you know what? You guys believe in Easter? You guys believe in Jesus Christ? And this is how you act? I have news for you. You're not getting in. I gotta tell you. And it turned out she'd just gone back to New York. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I did some purple here. And then I did a little over on here to try it out. It's like a little translucent. It's my spring. I know. What is happening? So, you know, she wasn't mine too. If it was my daughter, I would have said, why didn't you tell me you were going to be here for Easter? Or you should be here for Easter, but she wasn't my daughter. Even though I told you 20 minutes back that I loved her like my own daughter. But I don't, because actually I don't care about her at all. She's allowed to come and go as she pleases. And I'm not going to. It's different when you live with your daughter. This is just the girlfriend of my son. Disrespectfully, in the most disrespectful way, Roberta Laundrie, You can suck a fart straight out of my butt. This is just the girlfriend of my son. How she diminishes that. Because this was your daughter-in-law. Soon to be daughter-in-law. This was the woman that your son asked to marry him. This was the person that you said you loved like a daughter. And you diminish her even after she is gone. This is just the girlfriend of my son. It's not my place to, she's allowed to come and go as she pleases. What's the longest period of time she disappeared for? Well, I guess she went back for Easter. I didn't know if she was even coming back. I don't know how many days that was. Hi, Carolina. Did it turn into weeks? No, probably not. Okay, so there came a point when Gabby was gone for a longer period than she's ever been gone before, right? Well, maybe they broke up. I don't know. But that probably was the longest period, yes. And had there ever been a time when Gabby left for a period of time and Brian was upset and frantic and asked for a lawyer? No. Yesterday, your husband said at some point a $25,000 retainer was given to attorney Bertolino. Do you remember him saying that? Yes. Do you remember then that? Don't they have to give you a bill? What are you retaining a lawyer for? I have a lawyer. I have a business lawyer. And every time he gives me a bill, there's also a list of services for what the bill is for. Because your retainer goes towards said bill. Ta-da! Like, I don't understand how she could just be like, here's 25 grand. For what? For what? Do you remember when that check was given? Early September, but I don't have the exact date. Early September. Brian arrives home on September 1st. How soon after that is the check issued to attorney Bertolino? Probably that very day. The bill said burn after reading. Okay, so when attorney Bertolino said that in the press, he wasn't retained until September 11th, that is not correct. Correct? Object to the form! Well, I don't believe that check was to retain Mr. Bertolino. Who are these people? Thank you for answering or asking this question. Why were you giving Mr. Bertolino $25,000? Drugs? Was it drugs? I would feel better if you said drugs. I hope Gabby's soul haunts her dreams or lives every waking moment. Roberta deserves nothing. Can we also touch on how silent the husband is? Poco hombre. Poco hombre? Yeah. Little man? Tiny man. He was going to retain lawyers out west in case Brian needed help out west. Did you get your $25,000 back? That's what I want to know. What would Brian have needed help out west with? I don't know. That was between Brian and his attorney. I didn't get involved. You are full of shit. You threw, according to you, on like the first pages of this deposition, you threw a fit. You threw a fit because they didn't compliment your goddamn pie. A pie. A fucking pie. And now this is none of your business? Okay. I can just hear how this guy says this, or this woman. It's like, okay. All right. So you wrote a check for $25,000, or your husband wrote a check for $25,000 to attorney Bertolino and didn't ask what it was for. Well, we did it to retain attorneys out west for Brian on Brian's behalf. Was any part of that $25,000 for attorney Bertolino? I really don't know what he does with his funds, but it was to my understanding that it was for the attorneys out west. But you'd have to ask Mr. Bertolino. Just discovered your channel. I'm so sorry it's under these circumstances. I answer the phone with the wrong hello tone, and my mom asks me, right, when you're like, hello, what's wrong? What's the matter? I don't understand what Steven does with these funds. If I hand over $25,000, if I hand over $2,500 to anyone, I want an itemized fucking bill of how my money is being used. What is happening? Well, you're the one who retained him and your husband, right? Can you tell me what you retained attorney Bertolino for? Later, we retained attorney Bertolino to defend us against the plaintiffs, Petito and Schmidt, versus me and my husband. Yesterday, your husband testified that when he sent that $25,000 check, it was to represent you and he and your son, which would make sense why it's so expensive. So I was always like, I love your attitude, never pull back, go forward with the roar. I love you and I know you will conquer all. Thank you so much. So here's the thing, like I've always like, what is a retainer for that big? But that would make sense, right? If he is being retained for three different clients, that would make sense. What's 25,000 divided by 3? Like 9, right? Almost 9, 8.5, maybe 8 and 8. Ed and Eddie, I don't know, somewhere around there. So that would make more sense to me, right? Like it's $7,500 per person to retain a lawyer than $25,000 per one person. So that makes way more sense. Later, we retained attorney Bertolino to defend us against the plaintiffs. Yesterday, your husband testified that he sent that $25,000 check and it was to represent you, he, and your son. Do you recall him saying that? I do. Okay, is he incorrect? Yeah. I don't know if he's incorrect, but it was my understanding we might just have different understandings. But it was my understanding it was to retain the attorneys out west. Hi, Lucia. Okay, do you have any reason to believe you were in need of an attorney when that retainer was sent to attorney Bertolino? No. Okay, to your knowledge, were you ever the subject of a criminal investigation? Was I ever? I believe so, yes. When? Well, sometime after, while Brian was missing, my attorney informed me that the FBI wanted to question me. So if that's considered an investigation, then yes. Question you about what? I guess if I knew where Brian was, I don't know what they wanted to question me about. I think they said something about they had something electronic that I had done or they had, and I'm assuming it was they wanted. I think Mr. Bertolino told me this woman doesn't speak in a full sentence anywhere. And I'm assuming it was they wanted. I think Mr. Bertolino told me they wanted to question me if I knew where Brian was. Okay, that's my understanding. We don't care about your understanding because it's apparent you understand nothing. No entiendo. Ella no entiende is what it is, I believe. To be a defense attorney knowing so many of your clients are guilty and to get this case takes a whole different type of person to defend something like this. So I have a client who's a lawyer. And I was like, I hate defense attorneys. She's like, oh, don't say that. She's like, actually, a lot of prosecutors have become defense attorneys. And I'm like, I just don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could in my gut think that someone was guilty and still get up there and try to defend them. I don't. Like if OJ came in and I saw the mountain of evidence, I'd be like, I'm out of here. I can't morally, and like, I cannot do this. If Casey Anthony came in, I'd be like, no, Like, I can't. Okay, off the record. Did you ever tell anyone that you were being investigated for you having committed a crime? No, I think they just wanted to question me. Now I'm not sure of the distinction. I don't know if they were investigating me for a crime or if they just wanted to question me on the whereabouts of Brian. I think it was maybe charge me with something, or they thought they could. I don't know. I'm unclear on that. You're unclear on anything. You are unclear. You don't slander Matlock in this chat. Don't you dare. And if you win to see them walk free in public again, knowing what you think they did, I couldn't do it. Did you ever have a conversation with Attorney Bertolino about you being investigated for a crime? Yes. When? When Brian was missing and he said the FBI wanted to talk to me about something electronic they thought I had done, so I guess that was a crime. Yes. Charge her! Do you know what it was electronic they think you did? The only thing I could think of was possibly when I accompanied Brian to the cell phone store. Maybe they thought that was wrong, but I don't see how keeping company at the cell phone store was wrong. And that's all I could think of. If your son and his fiance are missing and the police want to speak to you, you are unsure of what they would like to speak about. Exactly. Critical Moss, you should be a lawyer. So Brian left on the 13th, correct? Yes. When did you report him missing? That night, the 13th. That makes no sense. Brian left on the 13th, told them that he was going hiking and camping, and they report him missing on the 13th. They left their car in the park for days. It got tickets. Okay, and when was it that Attorney Bertolino told you that the FBI wanted to speak with you? I don't recall. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. As a lawyer, I'd be like, what can you recall? What is it that you can recall? Was it the next day, the same day, days later? I have no recollection. That is the sound of the inside of Roberta Laundrie's head. Just charge her! Sometime in that before we found Brian. Were any charges ever filed against you or your husband? No. I'm sorry. I don't know why I only have 2 copies. Mr. Riley, what is going on? We got it yesterday. I don't need it. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 3 for your deposition here today. Can I clarify a question from a while ago that I was just thinking about? Sure. When you asked about, oh, this is Roberta. I'm sorry. She wants to clarify a question. When you asked about our camping trip, I just wanted to make it clear that we checked with Mr. Bertolino before we went camping. So I didn't want you to think that we were just going about. Bitch, you went camping. Oh my God. I don't want you to just think we were going about. I asked my lawyer if we could still go camping with the camping reservations that we had. And we went to dinner. We went to Chili's and we went to TGI Fridays, had an awesome blossom. And then we went camping with the whole family. But I don't just want you to think that we were like going about. You know, I checked to make sure that it was okay. And he said, just do what you would normally do. And we were normally going camping. So that's where we went. Because that's what we do every time my son kills somebody. We go camping. It's at this point of the podcast I would like to shove glass directly into my eyes. Because I'm a boy mom. I know I need to make that too. Why did you check with him to see if that would be okay? Because we weren't sure if he said keep him close and keep him, and we just wanted to make sure that that would be okay. Okay. Taking a look at what's been marked as Exhibit 3, do you recognize that? Yes. That's Mr. Bertolino's statement of September 14th of 2021. Yes. And he was speaking on your behalf was he not? Yes. Okay. And did you review this statement before he released it? I don't know. I don't recall. But I'm sure we approved all the statements Stephen made, so we must have. You know what's interesting? Is you approve a statement that Stephen made, but you don't approve where 25 grand went? God, I wish I just had expendable income. That would be amazing. If I could just be like, 25 grand? Who even cares? Not me. Could never care. I don't care about these things. I don't specifically remember, but I'm sure I did. What was the purpose of releasing this statement? Oh, there was so much. There were people outside our doors, banging on our doors, banging on our windows, sending us death threats. I think the purpose was sort of just to calm the public down so that we'd know we did extend our best wishes to the Petitos. What were your best wishes? What the fuck were your best wishes? Where were those? Could she have pleaded the fifth or something? She's stealing my brain. I am dumber. We are all dumber now for reading this. Because the people were screaming that we were horrible things at us, and we felt this would calm them down so that they would know, no, we do care. And we were hoping it would calm the public. It was a very scary time. We couldn't leave the house. It was frightening. You know what would be even more frightening? Knowing that my son had the capability of strangling another human being to death. Somebody that he said he loved, somebody that he asked to marry, watching the light go from their eyes and then leaving them in the fucking wilderness. That's frightening. Did the public calm down? No. Good. What about this statement led you to believe it might calm the public down? That we did care. And that we were demanding, and they were demanding a statement from us, and we just felt we should give them a statement. If they're demanding a statement from us, or it could get even worse. Imagine knowing that a young life was snuffed out so brutally and being so fucking cavalier about it. Exactly. Why at this time? I don't remember why at this time. It was the 14th. So Brian had disappeared. And that's when the media started to pressure us and get very ugly. And not just the media, but all kinds of crazy people. Okay. Roberta, I know that you're dumb. Okay, but I'm going to explain this to you in the most simple terms that I can. To describe people calling for the justice of a young girl whose life has been taken crazy, but not referring to the person who took her life as crazy is fucking wild to me. That might be the most wild thing I'm going to need a drink after this. The statement says it's an extremely difficult time for both the Petito family and the Laundrie family. Hi, Bacon and Chat. Weird statement. Quote, so that we'd know we did extend our best wishes to the Petitos. Not so others would know. So that they, the Laundries, would know. Kat, that is such a great catch. That is a great catch. Where is it? Normally as we do. It's a very scary time. I forgot what that was, but you're right. That's a great catch. So that we would know that we did what we were supposed to do to not look like suspicious creeps. The statement says it's an extremely difficult time for both the Petito family and the Laundrie family. And the fact that you even have the balls to say their name, to let their names roll off your tongue. Yes, she says. How was it difficult for the Laundrie family? We didn't know where Brian was, and he was missing. Wow! Imagine that. Imagine the irony of that. It was tough for us because Brian was missing and we didn't know where he was. You mean like when the Petitos didn't know where Gabby was and you didn't answer the phone? Maybe? And I think by then we had people screaming outside the door. It was just a really difficult time. I might have to make a video on this whole thing because how this bitch keeps talking. This pie. You know what, Roberta? I bet your pie was gross. I bet it was disgusting. I bet nobody wanted it because you're a shitty baker. Pie bacon bitch. Was it unusual for Brian to go off on his own for a period of time? Oh, he always hiked. Right. I mean, hiking? Yes. Well, to be fair, they did know where Gabby was. Exactly, Lucia. And it wasn't unusual for him to go away for days at a time, right? Well, yeah, he would go on those long trips with Gabrielle. And you know. No, I don't know. That's why you're in a deposition, and I'm a lawyer here asking you these goddamn questions. So why did you become concerned on the evening of the 13th when he didn't come home? Because he said he was coming home and said, see you later. So when he didn't come home for dinner, you know we were concerned. Less than 24 hours. You were concerned about Brian not coming home from hiking and camping. And he says, I'll see you later. I'm coming home. And you in your brain asked a question and was like, why is he not home? Where must he be? Maybe I'll do something about this. But Brian calls you from Wyoming and tells you that Gabby's gone, drives her van home, uses her debit card, takes her money, comes home, asks you to retain a lawyer for $25,000, and you're like, I'm just poor, no brain cells to rub together Roberta Laundrie. Ain't got a thought in my head. Did Gabby tend to go by Gabrielle to people? Just a general question. That I don't know. From everybody who I've seen who has talked about her has spoken of her as Gabby. So I don't know. If Brian was missing, why wasn't that included in the statement asking for help? If Brian was missing, why wasn't that included in the statement asking for help locating Brian? I don't know. No, you don't think. That's the point. Stop it there. I don't think. You don't have to go on answering any other questions. I don't think. Roberta Laundrie. I'm going to put that on a shirt as a quote. I don't think Roberta Laundrie. I'm selling it as merch. I'm sure he left that morning. I guess we had just hoped he'd come back later that day or the next day. No, you didn't. Because if you thought he would come back the next day, why did you call the police that night? Also, here's my favorite thing. Gabby would go out and be gone until 4 a.m. or gone, according to you, for days at a time. Never called the police. Didn't give a shit where she was. Brian's gone for 8 hours and you're like, somebody call the police. Help. That boy needs to be nursed to sleep. I mean, every day we hoped he'd come back. But you said you reported it to the police on the 13th. Right. Well, the day he left, which I think was the 13th. Right. And this was, not to the police, no. We reported it to the FBI. I don't even know the FBI's number. You couldn't, oh my fucking God. You couldn't even talk to the police for Gabby. But if Brian's missing for 4 hours, you're like, somebody call the FBI. Brian Laundrie is missing. And he doesn't have his binky or his blankie. And they had a liaison, and I just assumed the Northport Police Department and the FBI Police Department had a liaison. So I assumed if we were reporting it to the FBI, they're going to report it. You know, they're going to share their information. Are you certain you reported it to the FBI on the night of the 13th? Yes. Okay. Not me personally, Brian's attorney, because I don't do shit. As a mother who unhealthily loves her son, you are the worst mother. Mr. Bertolino, yes. So you were concerned enough about him being missing on the 13th that you called Attorney Bertolino and he called the FBI. Yes. But it's not included in this statement. Asking for help locating Brian is not included in this statement. No. Because I don't think we needed help looking for him. Cheese, trees, and ocean breeze. Hello, Ocean Pilot. He was missing. You called the FBI. And then she says, I don't think we needed help looking for him. I cannot imagine the frustration just like boiling up in this lawyer. We just wanted to let the FBI know that he hadn't come home. And I was worried about him. But I don't think I was worried enough to alert the media. And I was just worried about him. I don't think I was worried enough to alert the media, but you were worried enough to alert the FBI. He doesn't even have a question. Look at him. The next paragraph says, he's like, I don't even care about this anymore. The next paragraph says, quote, it's our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. How did you learn that? Oh, so that's in the statement. I wonder if they didn't find Gabby, if Brian would still be alive, is my question. I wonder that. Oh, I guess it was on the news, or it must have been on the news. And when it says our, and you approved this statement, did you understand that was our, meaning you, your husband, and Mr. Bertolino? I probably didn't read it so closely to recognize the word our, but I'm assuming it was on. Yes, I'm sure all of us were concerned. We were all concerned about Gabrielle, me, Stephen, and Chris. Oh, I was like, who's Stephen? Bertolino. Me, Stephen, and Chris. Not Brian? Is Brian not concerned about Gabrielle? Okay. Was Brian in Grand Teton National Park before he came home? You know, I really don't know the area. And I don't know where they were, so I don't know. I don't even know Grand Teton National Park. I don't know where they were camping, or I didn't It then goes on to state, on behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful. Yes. And that Miss Petito is reunited with her family. Yes. Did I read that correctly? Yes. This was issued 16 or 17 days after you learned that Gabby, God, this fucking lawyer, I want to give you a big kiss on the mouth because you are amazing. It was issued 16 or 17 days after you learned that Gabby was, quote, unquote, gone. Correct. Yes. What hope did you have at the time that the search for Miss Petito was going to be successful? We hoped for the best, because that's what we live on. Hope on a prayer. Living on a prayer. We hoped that they would find her and she would be fine. And that was our hope. We hoped for the best. And we sincerely hoped for the best and wanted to extend that to the Petito Schmidt family. Not the fact that Brian came home with her van. You didn't want to extend that. When they said, you know, Gabby's missing, you didn't want to be like, well, Brian's here. We don't know where Gabby is. You didn't want to do that. For her to sit here and bold-face lie, in my opinion, and say, we wanted the best for the Petito Schmidt family. What led you to believe that she might be reunited with her family? Well, nothing led me to believe. I just hoped it. They were looking for her. So, well, you pretty much knew she was dead at the time, didn't you? Objection to the form, Mr. Gilbert. No, I hoped for the best. We planned for the worst in case. We got Brian a lawyer, but we certainly hoped for the best. We planned for the worst, got Brian a lawyer, but certainly hoped for the best. What's the worst? What is the worst? You planned for the worst and got Brian a lawyer. That would have been my next question. What's the worst? What did you plan for? The fact that your son would be capable of murder? Okay. Okay. Well, let's put September 14th, 2021 in perspective. 16 or 17 days prior to the time that you spoke with your son and he was upset. Correct. Yes. You learned from your husband that he told your husband Gabby was gone. Correct. Correct. And that whatever occurred, your son needed a lawyer. Correct. Yes. And this is now 17 days later. Brian didn't hear from Gabby, did he? Not that I know of. Did you ask? Did you ask? Probably not, because you don't ask about anything else, or probably not because you already knew what happened. In my opinion, allegedly. You didn't hear from Gabby, did you? No. Did you try to reach out? As she stated before, also no. Because why would she? Because this is just the girlfriend of my son. There was all kinds of news reports about the family begging for help, looking for Gabby. Wasn't there finding Gabby? Yes. Okay. With all of that in perspective, what led you to believe she might still be alive? I just had hope. I've heard of stories where, people are looking for their daughter and they find her much later. And so I just never wanted to give up hope. Did you wonder why after you gave before you gave $25,000 to attorney Bertolino, why your son needed a lawyer? Yes. Yes. Okay. What was your thought about that? He must have done something, or something must have happened that he could be in trouble for. Whatever it was, we wanted to get a lawyer for him. Your husband testified yesterday that when Brian called on August 29th, he was in Jackson, Wyoming. Right. Were you aware of that? I think he told me when he got, I wasn't. Brian didn't tell me that, but I don't know when I first heard the word Jackson, maybe when Chris said it to me when I got off the phone or with Steven. But I don't even know where Jackson is. This fucking bitch. I've honestly... I feel like I'd be much happier in my life if I was this dumb. Just living. Roberta Laundrie is straight living off of vibes. Did you ever consider that this statement might be upsetting to Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt? No. Not at all, no. Of course. Because, Roberta, say it with me, you don't consider anybody else's feelings but your own. That's right. Did you ever consider it was giving them false hope that their daughter was still alive? I had hope she was alive, and I wasn't giving false hope. I didn't know I didn't know until I heard it on the news that she was gone. It's interesting that she just used gone instead of deceased or dead. I didn't know that she was gone, which tells me that you also use gone in the context of dead. Yet when Brian called home and said she's gone, she's gone, she's gone, you're like, I don't know what that means. I had hope also. Well, you had hope, but you also knew Brian told you she was gone. He needed a lawyer, and no one had heard from her for a long time, right? Yeah. Okay. And you realized that there was a likelihood that she was deceased, correct? I don't know if I thought there was a likelihood. I just hoped she would be all right. I never imagined we would end like this. You knew when this statement was issued, she wasn't going to be reunited alive with her family. Isn't that correct? Objection to the form! No, I didn't know. I didn't know Gabrielle was gone. Again, here we go, was gone. In the context of death. She uses it again. That's twice now. And yet she states when Brian said that she was gone, she had no idea what that meant. I don't know what that means. She's downplaying too. Killers tend to paint such words in less negative ways. Sounds like a guilty conscience. That's a great point. Instead of using the word deceased, instead of using dead, she does. She uses gone. And it's flippant. And also, it's just interesting that she would say, that Brian used it and she didn't know what that meant. But now she uses it. That's a great point. On September 16th, the Northport police announced that they knew exactly where Brian was. Yes. Do you recall that? Yes. Did you call them and ask him where he was? No. No, I didn't call and ask them where he was. I was just relieved that they knew where he was. I was very happy when I heard that they knew where he was. You reported your son missing to the FBI. They make a statement that they knew where he was. This is not a phone call you make? Well, you were desperate to know where he was, weren't you? Yeah, I wanted to know where my son was. And yeah, don't call anybody. Don't ask anybody. Don't call the police. If someone knew where he was, wouldn't you want to know that? Yeah, but as long as the police knew where he was, I was relieved. Which is another interesting statement because maybe you could have told the police where Gabby was. Because I believe that you knew in my heart of hearts. I said, okay, good. I guess eventually the police will just bring him back home. Or I'll get to visit him. I was, Get to visit him where? Wait a second. Get to visit him where? Because when they made, oh my God, when they made that statement, they did not bring out the notebook that he admitted to killing Gabby. So hold on a second. I guess eventually the police will bring him home or I'll get to visit him. Where? I didn't need to know exactly where he was. The police knew where he was. And I was like, good, they've got him. You'd get to visit him where? Oh my God, this lawyer. Open mouth kiss. Me to you. I know I said I wasn't streaming today, but sometimes I'm a liar. Just call me Roberta. Wherever the police had him. I mean, they said we know where Brian is. So I said, great. I'll get to see him wherever he is. Did you suspect that at some time he might be in jail? Actually, I didn't really think about that because I don't think about anything ever. I just got two little Mexican jumping beans jumping around in here. Not a thought to be had. They just said that they knew where he was, and I just assumed that they knew where he was. And that would be at their headquarters. I mean, I don't know. Where else would he be if he wasn't at my house? Jail? Yes, that would be great, Mr. Pike. Thank you. And the police knew where he was? Do you think maybe jail? I don't know. Maybe. The police had him. So I don't know where they put people when they have them. I was just happy to know where they had him. This is such a slip up to me. They will bring him back home or I'll get to visit him. That is such a slip up. Let me show you what's marked as Exhibit 4. I meant he was okay, and that's all that. Have you ever seen Exhibit 4 before? Whoever this lawyer is, male or female, is so done with her shit. Yes. Okay. Exhibit 4 is a letter. Down at the bottom, it says September 15th of 2021. It's a letter addressed to you on the stationery of attorney Richard B. Stafford with typed signatures of Jim Schmidt. Jim Schmidt, who is Gabby's stepdad, Nicole Schmidt, who is her mother, Joe Petito, who is her father, and Tara Petito, who is her stepmother. Correct. Did you ever see this before? Yes. When did you see it? I believe I saw it in the media. You saw a letter that was mailed to you in the media? Okay, around September 16th. I don't recall the date, but around the time it came out in the media. And what did you do after you read it? Burn it? We're big on that. We're big on it. I guess I don't remember, maybe we called our lawyer. They only have, thank you, Mr. Pike. They only have one number in their phone, and it's to Stephen Bertolino. Did you ever respond to it? No, why not? Our attorney advised us not to speak to anybody, including Brian, including each other. Okay. Did this letter have any impact on you whatsoever? Yes. What impact did it have upon you? I felt very bad. And I was worried too. I felt bad for them. But I was following my attorney's advice. So yes, it did have an effect on me. But in hindsight, do you think your attorney's advice to stay silent was very good? Object to the form! You can answer it. I love how he says object to the form and then he's like, fuck it, you can answer it. Oh, I don't know. In hindsight, was it good? I don't know. I can't foresee what might have happened if we'd taken a different path. Did you ever consider we might not be here today had you spoken to the Petito family? Object to the form! I don't know. I never really thought about that. Let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 5. Exhibit 5 is a text message that Attorney Bertolino sent to Josie Carbonate at PF 25. I believe that's a station on the East Coast. And the text message says, the news about Gabby Petito is heartbreaking. The Laundrie family prays for Gabby and her family. Did I read that correctly? Yes. Interesting that all of this would come from a family that prays. And that was sent out on September 19th of 2021. Did you know that text message was going to go out? I don't remember if I knew. I know Stephen usually discussed any statements he made, so I don't remember if I knew about it after or before, but I do recognize it. Do you know why it was sent out? Well, that must have been when they found Gabrielle. If this was the 19th, it must have been that Gabrielle's death must have been on the news that day. Yes, September 19th. I remember that was the day that it was on the news that Gabrielle had passed. No, she didn't pass. Nope. Did not pass. She didn't just pass away. Gabrielle didn't just pass. What a way to say that. That she had just passed. She had passed. Nope. Let me rephrase that for you, Roberta. I remember that was the day it was on the news that Gabrielle was murdered. How was the news heartbreaking to the Laundrie family? Oh, it was heartbreaking in so many ways just to know Gabrielle was gone, and it was just heartbreaking. There she is, using gone again for the third time. So it wasn't heartbreaking before that. So it wasn't heartbreaking before that? Well, I didn't know she was gone. There's 4. We need a gone counter until it was on the news. And that's when it was the very heartbreaking. Well, the words that your husband told you on August 29th was that she was, quote, gone. Right. That was concerning, but heartbreaking. Our hearts were broken when we found out that Gabrielle was gone. Deceased. So again, here, now that's the 5th time, and here she is recognizing that gone means deceased. So when you found out she was gone, did you reach out to Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt? No. Why not? We just kept following our attorney's advice not to speak to anybody. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 8. That's an email from you to Brian, is it not? Yes. And the date of that email is August 29th of 2021, correct? Yes. And that's the date that you learned Gabby was gone. Oh, just let me read it. I don't remember seeing this. This is the date I learned Gabby was gone? Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this. This is August 29th. I thought I was at the race on that day. Maybe I had come home. August 29th was a Sunday. That was the day. So I was home by Sunday. Yeah. Okay. Would you, on the date that you learned that your son needed a lawyer and he was frantic and Gabby was gone, would you send an email about T-shirts? I don't know. What the fuck? I don't know if I would send it. What T-shirts? I need to see these exhibits. That's the next thing that we need to do is look at these exhibits. This is at 117. Oh, I forgot all about this one. I didn't see the email. All I had was the pictures that I sent and remembered looking up pictures of T-shirts, debating on maybe why should I spend money on a shirt when it would be more special if Brian... Oh, my God. Maybe it would be more special if Brian drew it with his blood. Because I had gotten, for the previous birthday or Father's Day, I had gotten my husband a T-shirt with his favorite car, and he stained it with ice cream. Do you have access to the exhibits? I don't know. Not yet. I'll have to see if we do. I don't know if they're public. Were you telling Brian how to get a blood stain out of a T-shirt? No. So it's a coincidence. It was sent the same day he told you that he murdered Gabby, that Gabby was gone. Yes. Object to the farm! Oh. You can answer. Yes. Let me show you what I've marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize this? Yes. This is what's been referred to in the press as the burn after reading letter. Yes. When was this? You would agree this letter is undated, correct? Correct. And the first page of it has a bird drawn on it, correct? Yes. Well, not drawn. Was this a card or some stationery that you had? Stationery. Yeah, I made, but it wasn't drawn. What do you mean you made it? Well, I went to Hobby Lobby and I bought blank cards and then I rubber stamped them. So you had a stamp of a bird. Yes. Is there some significance about this bird? Nope. I have a frog, a bird, and a chicken. Look at all them chickens. Okay, and the handwriting that's on the first page, remember. Quote, remember. Is this your handwriting? Yes. And why did you write, quote, remember on the front? It was, remember, ... that I'll always love you. So if you open it up, it's all about how I'll always love him. So it was like, remember, I'll always love you. Okay. Is there any reason why it's not dated? Is there any reason you didn't write one to Cassie? How come Cassie doesn't have one? I just didn't think to date it. I don't always date notes either, so that's fine, I guess. It's not fine for Roberta. It's just fine for me. When did you write it? Before he was leaving for him and Gabs's trip in May of 21. Why did you write it then? Because I think I thought he might be going away for a little longer than That's not true. That's not true. You said that you did not know that he was going to be longer than you thought because you thought he was going to New York. It wasn't until Cassie saw on something like Snapchat or so. Oh my God, I'm going to make a video about this because I love contradictions. But you said that it wasn't until your daughter told you that they were out west. That's when you found out. And you said that you didn't ask Brian, you asked your sister. Anyways. I knew he was going away and I was going to miss him, and I just wanted to make sure he knew I loved him, even though he was going away and I was disappointed. It didn't matter, but it was okay because we'd gotten in that little thing about, I thought you were going to live here and save your money, so I didn't want him to think that I was disappointed in him or that I didn't love him, or so whatever he decided to do, I would always, always love him, including kill somebody. Because that's what you wrote in the letter. If you need to hide a body, I'll bring a shovel in a bag. So this was written after he told you that they were going on the trip. Yeah, like right before they left, like just a few days. But your understanding of that trip, I think according to your prior testimony, is that they were just going to New York. God, I should have been a lawyer. Oh, there's so much useless knowledge in here. Yeah, they told me that they were going up to New York, but I guess from seeing them empty the storage unit, I was kind of beginning to suspect that they were going to be gone longer. Did you and he have a disagreement over him leaving? No, not a disagreement, but I did express that I was disappointed. I thought he was. I had waited for us to move in together. After I went back to New York, I couldn't wait until we could all live together, which I know is silly. He's a grown-up boy, but I thought he would live with us for a while and save his money and work and put it away. I know he wanted to buy a house, so I expressed I was disappointed, but he's a grown boy and he can do what he wants, except for disappear on a hiking trip because you'll call the FBI. And so a tiny, I just thought maybe we were growing apart. And we were growing apart because he's growing up. He's not a little boy anymore. Or maybe this is some sick and twisted shit and you felt like he was growing apart from you because he got a girlfriend that he was going to marry. And you couldn't handle it because you're a boy mom. Did you write this letter because you were concerned that he didn't know you loved him? Well, I thought he might be concerned since I was disappointed that he might think, yeah, I didn't love him. But no, I mean, I really didn't think I just wanted to reassure him that I loved him no matter what, no matter if he moved away, if he decided to stay out west, whatever he did. If he didn't buy a house and decided to do something else, I don't know, whatever he did, I would always love him. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, to say the least. Why did you write burn after reading on it? Because I'm dumb. Well, Gabby had bought Brian a book and it was called Burn After Writing. And it was how you could put your deepest thoughts down. And if they were embarrassing and you didn't want anyone else to read them, the advice on the book was just burn it. So it was like a little joke that I knew he would get and he would know what I was referring to. And I did want him to get rid of it. Not burn it, but throw it out so nobody read it. It's an embarrassing note. Why is it embarrassing? But it says burn after reading, not burn after writing. Yeah, because it's kind of the same thing because he would be reading it. I wrote it, but I knew he'd be reading it. So after you read it, you burn it. Well, that's what someone writes on a letter when they don't want it to be discovered, right? Right. Okay. You didn't want this letter discovered, right? Yeah, it was embarrassing and I didn't want, yeah. So I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I actually have 2 journals over on, they're just like 2 spiral bound journals. And I have, when I think about it, I have written my kids letters and I do date them, but it's kind of like a journal. It was like, hey, today was really special because Chris H., thank you for joining the club. It's like, today was so special. Like I've read them before, like after, and it's like, oh, one of the things that I've noticed that I've never wanted to forget is how soft your baby hands are. Or today you took your first steps. Or I remember writing one to my letter that was like, I'm just so proud of the person that you are and all of these things. I mean, if somebody gets a hold of them and reads them, I don't care. Why is that embarrassing? It's not embarrassing to write a letter to your children to tell them that you love them. It should be embarrassing to write them a letter to tell them you'd commit a crime for them. But I digress. It's a silly letter. He's a grown boy, and it was a joke, really. He didn't have to destroy it. And now I think it's sweet he saved it. It was just a little joke. Of course you think it's sweet he saved it because everything that Brian does is sweet. It says, turning to the next page, you are my boy. Nothing can make me stop loving you. Nothing will or could ever divide us. Right. Why did you ever feel the need to say that? I guess I was just being over the top, mushy, emotional, just so he knew we were always, even if he grew up, he would be my little boy. They all must have known Gabby was going to believe Brian. But I feel like Roberta would have loved that. I feel like she would have encouraged that. If he's 50 years old, he'll always be my boy and nothing could ever divide us. Okay. Okay. I really wish I could hear this. Even if he didn't speak to me for 6 months because he's mad or something, I would forgive him and we'd talk it like nothing. Nothing. Okay? Nothing, including murder, would make you stop loving him, correct? Oh my God. Including murder? Oh, I would always love him. Oh my God! If my son had committed murder, right? He's still my son. He's still my baby. Do I think I could stop loving my son? No, I don't. So that I understand. But for this to just come off so, oh my God, I would always love him. Including murder. Oh, I would always love him. Did the Laundries ever have any other children? Yes, they have a daughter named Cassie who likes to paint. Actually, it was so funny. Yesterday in my premiere, somebody was in the chat and was like a Brian Laundrie sympathizer. And I was like, Cassie, is this you? And then they just disappeared. And I was like, Brian must have secretly been complaining about Gabby long before things came to a head. Complaining about her to his mom. I think Roberta's the type of person that no woman would ever be like good enough for her son. No female. And I also think that, she's the type of person that would think that a female is trying to take Brian away from her. I think that if she knew that Gabby was going to leave Brian, that she would have loved that, because then Brian would have run to his parents. He would have needed them. And that's what people like Roberta, in my opinion, thrive off of. Then it says, no matter what we do or where we go or what we say, we will always love each other. Right. No matter what, including murder. Well, I didn't say including murder. I love that I just read this the way that I read this in my own head. Well, I didn't say including murder, but you know I will always love my boy no matter what. And then you say, if you are in jail, I will bake a cake with a file in it. Yes. What led you to believe that he might be in jail? Well, I went out with a series of silly examples of things that were like far-fetched, yet all similarly have to do with something with murder. Right? I would never actually think he would end up in jail. Which is interesting. I would never actually think he would end up in jail. But when he got a lawyer, one of the things that you literally said in this deposition was, I don't know, maybe they got into an argument and like he hit her or something. Which is a jailable offense. He was such a sweet, nice, good boy. I would never imagine it, just like I would never imagine. You know, to listen to her talk about how he was such a sweet, nice, good boy. And at the point of this deposition, both Gabby and Brian are deceased. And because she doesn't have two brain cells to rub together, I really just wonder if she believes, like, in her delusion, that Brian wasn't truly capable of what he actually did. Like, maybe if she's like, you know what, the letter and the note that he wrote, that's what's true. Or whoever was in my chat yesterday, Cassie Laundrie, in my opinion, says that he's the victim of domestic violence, or that he's, you know, he was abused by Gabby. He was the type of person to essentially see his own benefit in everyone, so he probably manipulated Gabby the same way, conversely, regarding his parents. I agree. If you read on that he would ever go to the moon, I didn't think he was going to suddenly go to astronaut school and go to the moon. So I was just being exaggerating and silly, and I tend to be. I know, I don't seem jokey, but I'm intending. I always joke. Real stand-up comedian. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see if he has a deposition that we could read, because that would be interesting too. Although he's just like a primordial ooze and skin, really. He doesn't seem to have... These people don't have a lot of thoughts in their heads. Even my Tide Sticks was a joke. I'm always doing jokes. I'm always doing jokes. Even if they're not good jokes, I'm always joking. And so I was just like making light of it. If you go to jail, if you go to the moon, if you do that, no matter what, I'll love you. Love you, love you, love you. And it's just a silly little letter. I never imagined the future when I wrote this. You understood he could have gone to jail for murder, right? Object to the form! Not when I wrote this letter, and not ever. I was actually going to put a file in a cake. Who does that? Not you. You bake shitty pies that nobody eats, Roberta. I thought you weren't going to live today. Listen, El Jacad. Sometimes my son wakes up between the hours of 12 and 3. And sometimes I make split decisions and tell everybody that I'm not going live. And then sometimes I lie about it and I actually come back online and I go live. Doing jokes even when people are missing and or dead. Yes. She's just kind of a jokester, Kat. What would even lead you to think that he might go to jail? Objection! Well, nothing. I was just being, what would lead me to think he would go to the moon? Nothing to lead me to think he would go to the moon. And then next you say, if you dispose of a body, I will show up with a shovel and garbage bags. What led you to believe that he might need to dispose of a body? Object to the form! I know, okay, but this is so crazy. I was just like, imagine. This is like her talking to somebody over coffee. I know, okay, but this is so crazy. Okay. I've got your back. I saw your post that you were going live today after all. Yeah. Yeah. My brain just sometimes doesn't work. I think the most telling is daughter Laundrie. She came off as knowing her parents let him get away with all kinds of crap growing up. I don't think she even talks to her parents anymore. Yeah, that's what she says. But yeah, I don't know. She defends him a lot on her Instagram, which I find very interesting. I know. Okay, but this is so crazy. Okay, somebody had told me a joke and I thought it was funny. And I told people at work and I told Brian and I thought it was the funniest joke. Somebody said to me, oh, you know, a good friend is somebody that shows up with garbage bags and a shovel. Oh, somebody you can call at 3 a.m. and they show up with garbage bags and a shovel and they don't ask any questions. It's so funny. Like, that's how you know a good friend. She, during this deposition, knows that Gabby is gone. And I thought it was a funny joke. And I told it to Brian. I thought it was such a funny joke. And so I was referring to the joke, but I didn't have time to write out the whole joke. I knew he would know the joke that I was referring to. You know what I just want her to say? I was joking, but in hindsight, knowing what my son did, I am regretful of this. Like the fact that I said that and I thought I took it, as a joke and I gave it to Brian and then my son did this thing. It eats me up inside. It makes me feel terrible. But she can't say that. She also has yet to say that she knows that Brian has murdered Gabby. She worked hard to convince people she was only joking. Yeah. She makes herself sound more guilty than the actual truth. I agree with you. You know what? We might just go live tomorrow morning and read the rest of this deposition because this is insane. So that I would always, be there. Your intent in writing this letter was to express the depth of your love to him. Right. But you don't say, whatever you do in life, I'll be proud of you. Correct? Ooh. She seems to deny the gravity of it all. Absolutely. I know that would have been better. You don't talk about what a great childhood he had, correct? Yes? Right. You don't talk about memories of him, correct? Correct. You don't talk about places you've gone together, correct? Correct. You don't talk about what he did to make you love him the way that you do. Correct. But I have other letters like that. But we're talking about this letter. Yeah, right. I know, yeah. Which talks about jail and murder. I don't write it in this letter, but I'd write other letters like that. I've written, you don't say any of those things, but you talk about jail and burying a body. I think she's guilty, though. I think she wrote the letter when he returned, and I think her distancing and minimalizing is very intentional. My opinion. Also my opinion. I agree with you. I know it was a poor choice of words. When I read this letter, I was like, that sounds awful, but it was nothing. It was a jokey, stupid letter that I had dashed off before he left with lots of bad jokes and poor humor, and that's how I intended it. I never imagined any of this. It sounds so bad now, but at the time I wrote it, it was just jokey and stupid. And let me finish this then for you, Roberta. And after my son did what he did, I am sickened and saddened by this letter. Okay. But I do have letters that I've written to him, just like listing all of his good qualities, listing his good memories. I've written tons of letters like that. But you didn't put it in this one. I know. I should have. I wrote this stupid one, which was written around the time he murdered Gabby. Object to the form! Objection. Yeah, this was way before, like May, before they went on the trip. And I just wanted to make sure. Well, we have to take your word for that, right? Yes, yes. In that sentence, if you need to dispose of a body, I will, you have, bring, and bring is crossed out. Why is bring crossed out? Roberta Laundrie should take a lie detector test. Yep. I was trying to remember how the joke went, and then I remembered it was show up. And it's like, the joke was a good friend shows up. Okay. With a shovel and garbage bags. So baking, you're aware, are you not, that if you put a file in a cake and give it to someone in prison, that's a crime? Hey, Mr. Lawyer, I don't know if you knew this, but Roberta is a shitty baker. And nobody likes her baked goods. Yes, but it's also a very funny joke in movies. Somebody filing their way out of jail with a file. And as a matter of fact, the movie that I was thinking of when I wrote it was a Wes Anderson, Hotel Budapest, where she bakes beautiful pastries. And in even one, she puts a tiny spoon and the guy digs himself out of jail. It was just a joke. Are you 12? And you were, because you can't dig yourself out of jail. You can't file your way out of jail. It's just so silly. And you were thinking that at the time that you wrote this. Yes. Yeah. Okay. You realize that offering help dispose of a body would be a crime. Of course. But it was a joke. See, this is a joke. Why was the black hole sad? Because it sucked at everything. That's a joke. That's a joke. When I went to the work in the World Trade Center, oh my God, I have something I want to say right now, but I'm going to leave this one alone. Of course, but it was a joke. You wouldn't really do that. It's like joking. When I went to work in the World Trade Center, on the top floor, they had a place where tourists could come and you could get your picture taken leaping off the World Trade Center. And it was very funny. And you'd put on a funny face and you'd pay your $10 and you'd get a picture of yourself falling off the World Trade Center. And that was so funny. And everybody had funny faces. And I'm saying this because at the time it was a joke. I need to quit my YouTube career. Did I just read what the fuck I think I just read? No, I was about to make a joke about her being there, but she made it worse. Okay. Okay. Later, when people actually did fall off the World Trainer, it was not so fun. I hate Roberta Laundrie. Later, when people actually did fall off the World Trade Center, it was not so funny. Too soon? Well, this isn't so funny now that we know that your son murdered Gabby, is it? Exactly. God. Okay. Why is it that you chose Romans 8:38 to quote in your letter? Oh, I love that verse. Yeah, because a bitch like you would read the Bible. That's, oh my God. I love that verse because it shows how we can never be separated from God, the love that God had for us. And so I kind of used it to show that's how powerful my love is. Just the way that we cannot be separated from God, our love could not be separated by anything that ever, anything, that ever, how is it worded? Things here, things to come. Nothing in the world could ever separate our love. I just thought it was a very beautiful expression of love, and I used it to say how much all right. Let's look at it. Love Brian. It was a joke. 1 Corinthians would have been better. It saddens me to have to share air from earth with Roberta. I love how she's like, if he had just written, or if she had just written something like this, that would have been fine. But she wrote something like this along with hiding a body, along with baking a file and a cake. Just to let you guys know, I got a 10-minute warning before I got to get out of here, and then I'll be live tomorrow morning. I'll make up today's morning live with tomorrow's morning live. I'm sorry. Let's look at the language in parentheses at the bottom of the second page. It says nothing can separate us, not hatred, not hunger, not homelessness, not threats, not even sin. Not the thinkable or unthinkable can get between us, right? Murder is a sin, isn't it? Yes. Murder is unthinkable, isn't it? Yes. Weren't you writing this to tell him that no matter what he did, you still loved him? You'd still love him and nothing could come between you. Well, actually, somewhere a tree is making oxygen for Berta and she should apologize. Maybe that tree needs to stop. Oh, my God. Actually, the reason I did this in parentheses is because in my Bible, which Bible is that? Because I'd really like to get my hands on that Bible. This is how Romans 8:38 is worded. But when I looked it up in the King James Version, they actually use, or I don't know, maybe it wasn't King James Version, these words. And I said, oh, these words are nice too. I should put the original of this version or Romans, or should put this version of Romans. So I squeezed it in the end in parentheses. I had a little space, and that's where I wrote an extended version. Like there's 2 different versions depending on what Bible you read. Hi, Medell. Okay. That's how I read this every time. Okay. All right. Whatever you say, crazy lady. And I'm like, that's a nice version too. But I was just saying, I was just being how do you know what hyperbole means? You don't know what hyperbole means. The word for just exaggerating. Oh, no matter what happens, I'll love you. Can you understand how it sounds like you're suggesting he did something wrong and telling him that nothing could ever come between you? I could see how somebody could read it that way now, but at the time, that's not how I intended it. She has a signed copy Bible. Can I ask a question to the parents? Is this type of letter normal? No. You know what? I should get up and get the journal that I've written to my... Do you want to see what I've written to my kids? Because I'll show you that. I bet she feels very superior teaching people about the scripture. Add hypocrite to the list. Yeah. I'm sure she sits in the front row in the first pew every Sunday. And then you ended it by saying not time, not miles and miles and miles. Right. Were you encouraging him to run away? No. That just means no matter how far apart we are, if we went to another planet, went to the moon, our love was just so, I love him. I love him. I always will. Maybe I'm too dramatic. That didn't seem normal, but I don't want to be a Monday quarterback about parenting. Monday quarterback. Everybody's going to do parenting differently. I write stuff to my kids. Mine, I do more of like a memory journal, but mostly mine's like, and exactly what the lawyer said, right? Like, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You're doing X, Y, and Z. So like, good. Like, these are the achievements. I'm proud of the person that you are. You're doing amazing. Like, just, this is weird. It's my affidavit in support of motion for protective order. Okay. And this affidavit was written about the letter that we just went over, correct? Yes. The purpose of this letter was to reach out to Brian while he and I. What? I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 7. Do you recognize that document? What is it? It's my affidavit in support of motion for protective order. Okay. And this affidavit was written about the letter that we just went over, correct? Yes. Turn to the second page. It says the purpose, paragraph 5, numbered 5. The purpose of the letter was to reach out to Brian while he and I were experiencing a difficult period in our relationship. What was the difficult period? Mama 4 here, 2 boys, 2 girls. Youngest just turned 36. Everything about the letter shows very inappropriate attachment between mother and child. Absolutely. I've written about loving them and being proud. Absolutely. I'm the best parent ever. I don't have any kids. Exactly. Right. He was leaving home and I was, he had a new girlfriend. So we were not spending as much time together, and nothing big, just not what it was when he was little. Yeah. He's 23. Okay. I got to tell you, if I were to ever have the choice of having children again, I don't know if I would do it, because nobody told me that this is just an extremely slow and painful breakup. You have kids and then you're like, oh my God, I love you so much. And then you teach them life skills and then they leave you and you're like, why would I do this? But it's like, yeah, they go, they get friends and they get relationships and they leave your house and they start their own journeys. But that's the thing. Normal parents will be proud of their kids to do these things, to have these successes and, have a healthy relationship with a girlfriend. Like, that's the thing. If my son got a girlfriend, I would never be like, oh my God, I am your first love. I am your first kiss. I would be like, bitch, you better treat him right. That's all I care about. Be good to my son. But also in return, I would teach my son to be good to that girl, because that's what's important, is having them go out and having them find people who love them, having them get married to somebody who loves them and cares about them and supports them. You should want that for your son. Okay. Okay. And I guess I was having more trouble with it than anything. I wish my kids would stay little, but I just wanted to reassure him that I loved him. Things were changing. He was growing up. He's taking a trip. I wasn't thrilled with it. It's just difficult. He's 23. Now he's growing up? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any way to do the ads. I'm sorry, Lucia. I am monetized, but I don't have a way to, I don't know how to do that. 23 and developing a new attachment that didn't include her. I'm sure she was frantic and desperate to remind him. And don't get me wrong. I would love, I see videos and stuff of my babies. I would love my babies to go back to that time. But I also have to tell you as a parent, them gaining their independence is also awesome. You know why? Because I'm also an independent person. I have a desire to go out and still be my own person and do my own things. And that's important. Your kids should want to go on and do things without you, and vice versa, because we're people and we all need our own things. You found out about that trip, I believe you said a couple weeks before they left, right? I think it was less than a week. Okay, but in the next sentence you say, in the months prior to the trip, our relationship had become strained. Yeah. Why was your relationship strained? I wish they would go through her phone. Well, like I was saying, we weren't spending time together. I don't know. It just wasn't the same as it was. And then you go on to note, Brian and I shared a love of stories, and some of the language in the letter was using similar phrases to determine the depth of a mother's love. The 2 books that come to mind are The Runaway Bunny and Little Bear. Yes. What language in those books do you think is similar to the phrases? Oh my God, I remember Little Bear. And I remember the book where Little Bear shows up in the middle of the woods at 3 a.m. and brings a shovel and a garbage bag because his friend, Franklin the turtle, had killed somebody. I remember it's, oh my God, childhood memory. Yes, such a great book. And then I believe in The Runaway Bunny, after he runs away and he goes to prison, right? And he joins a gang of some sort, that his mom, Bunny, actually bakes a cake and puts a file in it. I think you can actually find this in the children's section at the fucking library. Well, I know in Little Bear, he went off to the moon, and the mother bear, you know, there's a picture of her waiting for him to come back, and he comes back from the moon to see his mother bear. And then Runaway Bunny, it was just no matter what the bunny did, she would always love him. I forget the exact book, but it was like, I mean, forget the exact lines, but whatever the bunny did, she would always love him. Okay. With that being said, I have to go be an actual mother. Yeah. So I still hate Roberta Laundrie after reading this. And we will reconvene tomorrow at about I don't know, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Central time, and all the other times. Yeah, so if you guys are new here, I stream every Thursday, typically in the morning and then in the afternoon, but I have kids, so sometimes that changes because I'm a boy mom. And I post every Wednesday, although I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with every Wednesday because my videos are getting long. But I just finished the editing and I'm uploading the episode for next week, which is I don't know if she's I'm just like doing a mom series. Maybe that's what my channel should be, is just me like roasting moms. But next week we'll be talking about Ruby Frankie. So if you guys haven't had enough of this, you know, there's that. So we'll finish this tomorrow. You guys have been great. Sorry about the back and forth on whether I was going live or not going live. Just my life, that's how it works. Other than that, I think you guys are great, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.